Creatures by Gleitzman, Chapter 3. Rest of that trip was good, mostly on account of me keeping my trap shut about the war. Dad forgave me for losing our pay, said it was worth it, said at least the dog would have known at the end that someone was on his side. I stared into the campfire and kept quiet. When your old man's got the biggest heart in the district, best not go on about it. We did another job on the way back. Fixed up an old well at an abattoir. Manager thought it was dry, but it was just clogged. Dad knew in his bones there was water down there. We got paid for that one, so we were happy. Made an early start home the next morning. Daisy and Jimmy at a trot. All of us chipper as anything. Dad even had a bit of a whistle, which he hadn't done since Mum died. Then we reached town and saw the hearse outside the pub. 2 coffins, an army hat on each one. Empty coffins, of course. The bodies were still over there on some foreign battlefield. Army couldn't bring them back. Too hard to find the bits, probably. Dad swore, which wasn't his style. He went into the pub to make inquiries. While he was in there, a group of women and girls in funeral clothes came down the main street. One of them was Joan. Her mother was with her. I got off Daisy to show respect, and so Joan's mum could see I had manners. A horrible thought hit me. Was one of the coffins for Joan's dad? As Joan went past, I blurted it out. "Is your dad all right?" I said. Joan stopped, uncertain. Her mother gave her a sharp push to keep her moving. "Major Prescott is fine," said Mrs. Prescott as she signalled to Joan to keep walking down the street. "He's dispensing medicine in Egypt." The other women looked at me in a not very friendly way. "So, Francis," said one of them, "what about your father?" "Pretty right, thanks," I said. "He's in the pub." The women made disgusted noises as they walked off. I should have gone after them, explained they'd got it wrong, but I didn't. Joan was glancing back at me. I didn't want to get her into more strife. When Dad came out of the pub, his face was dark. He paused by the hearse and touched both the coffins. "Who are they?" I said. "Ron and Nobby Shanks," muttered Dad. "Those mongrel Huns and Turks need a talking to." It was my day for saying stupid things. "Thought you reckoned this was some other idiot's war," I said. Dad gave me a look. I was glad the bucket was in the back of the rig. "They've killed 2 of my mates," said Dad, "so now it's personal." Poor Dad looked pretty smitten, but I couldn't help thinking about the bright side. "That mean we'll be going?" I said. Dad looked at me. He looked at the coffins. Then he swore and went back into the pub. I waited with Daisy and Jimmy. A couple of blokes came out and took the hearse away. When Dad came out again, quite a while later, he was staggering a bit. He pulled me roughly towards him and cupped my face in his hands. He hadn't done that for years. "I promised your mother," he said in a beery voice. "I promised her that you and me wouldn't go till you're old enough. End of story." He dropped his hands and we looked at each other. "What's old enough?" I said. Dad thought about this while he dragged himself up onto Jimmy. I was hoping Mum hadn't put the official army figure on it. She had. 18, said Dad. On my 16th birthday, I got up early, spent some time with Daisy rehearsing what I was going to say to Dad, how Mum wouldn't mind if we went now, how she'd agree that if you're tall for your age and mature enough not to smoke, you're ready to do your bit. And she'd understand about girls, I said to Daisy, how you have to go to war to get one. Daisy probably didn't have a clue what I was talking about, but she could tell from my voice it was important. So she stopped trying to get her head into my pocket, looking for apples. I hoped Dad would agree it was important. Huns and Turks were giving our blokes a battering. Memorial services most weeks in the district. 4 coffins, some of them. So what if I'm not 18? I said to Daisy. I've got hair where it counts. Daisy didn't argue. She'd seen me having baths in creeks. She knew I was ready to do my bit. Heading into the house, I saw something on the veranda table. A little box, wrapped up all pretty with a ribbon. Geez, I thought, that's not from Dad. I picked it up. It wasn't from him. It was for him. His name on it, curly writing I'd never seen before. Happy birthday, son. said Dad, coming out of the kitchen with something wrapped in newspaper. That was more his style. Thanks, Dad, I said, taking the horse brush I knew he'd got for me. Struth, said Dad, grinning and staring at the flash little box. Happy birthday from a lady, hey? It's for you, I said. He frowned. I knew why. Mum hadn't even been dead a year. You open it, he said. Inside the pretty little box, there wasn't a present, just a feather. A white feather. No note, but we both knew what the message was. Only blokes who weren't in the army got white feathers. Blokes who people thought should be in the army. Sometimes people couldn't tell the difference between a coward and a stubborn parent. Dad's face when he saw the feather. Only time I'd seen him looking more crook was when the doctor told us Mum wasn't going to make it. That's not fair, I said. They don't understand. Dad didn't say anything, just stared at it. But his face. No way he was putting off going now. I had a worrying thought. We're a team, I said. You're not dumping me with the rallies in Perth. No, muttered Dad. I'm not. Dad didn't like Mum's folks. At the funeral, they blamed him for Mum getting sick. They didn't say anything, but you could tell. So that was it. We said hooroo to the neighbours, nailed the windows shut, saddled up Daisy and Jimmy, and went to Sydney to volunteer.